Alrighty, so all of the game involving MLS team in tonight's CONCACAF Champions Cup action is in the books, and I was really praying that the last game and the game that just finished between the Galaxy and San Miguelito was not going to go to extra time or go to a PK shootout because, as you already know, it's kind of crazy the fact that they started at 8:30 p.m. in the middle of the week, and yeah, if it went to extra time or even go to a PK shootout, this review would have been even later than it's already been. But that being said, when it comes to the three games involving MLS team in the CONCACAF Champions Cup, we saw actually a closer matchup than what we saw at least in the last two games, where MLS team basically kind of had to sweat it out a little bit in terms of getting over against their CONCACAF Champions Cup opponent. But then we also saw this game. Yeah, to say that this game was ugly is an understatement because this was really the first time I've seen an MLS team drop a 9 score on their opposition. And I know some people might saw this coming with the way that, they were playing against a Caribbean team that was not only the lowest ranked team in the CONCACAF Champions Cup, but was also a team that they mentioned before they have also struggle in league play as well. But still, even so, I mean, I did not expect Cincinnati to drop a 9 spot on OMN in this game. I thought they were gonna be similar to what we saw LAFC did, which LAFC kind of took it a little easy on Real España yesterday after getting a big aggregate score heading into the second leg. Well, Cincinnati, they would just show no mercy in this one. Like they basically ran up the score in the second half. But in the first half, Cincinnati kind of picked up where they left off, continued to dominate the possession. There was a shout for a handball for OM not given. Barlow was in on goal there, but he missed wide because, yep, that's the Tom Barlow that we all know of. As much as his start with Cincinnati, he at least has score a goal for Cincinnati, and he's kind of got off to a decent start. There's also times where we see him miss some easy chances, and that's kind of the reason why he's been kind of passed around the league in his career. But that being said, in the 16th minute, Gilbert Zoo would then deny Barlow from close range. By the way, the OM netminder, I feel sorry for him. I mean, it's one thing to give up a lot of goals in a game, but to give up 9 goals in a game, that's gonna be brutal to recover. And speaking of those 9 goals. One of them came in the 19th minute, and the first of what would be 9 goals would be scored in the 19th minute as Umbama Dem would score from Mobido to give Cincinnati a 1-0 lead. Monterella did look to answer for O&M, but he puts it wide. That also came off a WTF turnover from Cincinnati. So as much as Cincinnati was pretty much doing everything right, there were still a couple of things that they kind of got away with it, and this was kind of one of those moments that they got away of committing a bad turnover in their own end. It didn't matter because just a couple of minutes later, Dado Valenzuela would make it 2-0 from Wobodo at the 27th minute. The shots were 8-3 for Cincinnati up to this point, and in the 33rd minute, it would be 3-0 in favor of Cincy as Castillo actually scores the own goal here for O&M as well. It was a ball coming into the box from a corner, and Castillo unfortunately put it into his own net. But in the 35th minute, guess what? Tom Barlow would score. So yeah, things are bad for your team when Tom Barlow scores on you, or is it just the fact that he's kind of taking advantage of facing against Caribbean farmers? But he scored here from Anunga to make it 4-0 up to this point. Valenzuela did look for 5, but he missed one there. Yeah, it's one-way traffic up to this point. And Cincinnati, I know they had to play this game, but they're kind of treating this like a midweek training session, and I think it's a good midweek training session because usually in the middle of the week all these MLS teams do their training session to prepare for the weekend. Well, this feels like it's a perfect time to do so, and you also are kind of in a competitive game as well. So Cincinnati gets the extra bonus, the fact that not only it's kind of a training session for their weekend game that they're preparing, but also the fact that they're facing against an actual opponent. Though judging by how this game eventually ended, it didn't feel like they were facing an actual decent opponent whatsoever. But in the 39th minute, Chirella would miss wide from long range, and this, by the way, is Andre Chirella. Eventually, we saw two of the Chirella brothers came in for FC Cincinnati, both of them, of course, playing for the second team. And by the way, there was a lot of second team player from FC Cincinnati that played in this one, and it didn't matter because they were still continuing to dominate in the second half as well. But we do head to halftime with Cincinnati leading 4-0, and in the second half they waste no time to make it 5-0 as Chavez would score his first career Cincinnati goal, one of the Cincinnati 2 player from MLS Next Pro. He scored from Mbuma them to make it 5-0 in favor of Cincinnati, and then Steven Rito would look to make it 6, but he hits it right to Galbonze. But in the 58th minute, Mbuma Dam would score again. So he scored from Jimenez to make it 6-0 in favor of Cincinnati, and despite the fact that Cincinnati would eventually score the 9 goals I mentioned, nobody actually got a hat trick in this game, which is kind of weird because anytime when you see that many goals, you would assume one of these player would got a hat trick, and Mbuma Dem was the closest, of course, getting that hat trick in this one, getting a brace. But in the 68th minute, Jimenez would make it 7-0. He scored from Wobodo here to make it 7-0. Andre Chirilla then tried to make it 8, but he was denied by Gilbenza. But in the 78th minute, it would be 8-0 in favor of Cincinnati, as Alvis Powell would score from Lehar to make it 8-0 in favor of Cincinnati. And I talked about before how in terms of nobody was able to get a hat trick in this one. At least there was actually one player that got a hat trick when it comes to assists, and that of course is Wobodo, who I believe he ends up with 3 assists in this game. So yeah, at least there's that going for them. The crowd also wants a red card here because they thought Ramirez's challenge on Flores was deemed a red, and they got their wish because they go to VAR to see whether or not if that is the case. And I gotta say, I mean, yes, you could say that maybe that would be a red card maybe in MLS play, but I kind of surprised they eventually gave it in CONCACAF play as well because as I mentioned before, in CONCACAF play there's a lot of leeway when it comes to what is a red and what is not, and I don't think that foul was kind of egregious enough where I think that's kind of worthy of red. And also the fact that this is already 8-0, I feel like that's just twisting the knife in my opinion of setting a player off. But apparently that's what happened. Ramirez of course was sent off. O&M already down 8-0 in this one, or had a man sent off for the last 7 minutes, and Cincinnati took advantage of it as Steven Carrilla would become the ninth goals that was scored by Cincinnati in this one from Lahar to make it 9-0 up to this point. And this is when the fans really want 10 goals. And I don't blame the fans want 10 up to this point because, it's very rare we see a game where there's double digit goals that is being scored. And Alvis Powell almost made it 10-0. Well, I say almost. It was kind of an ambitious long range effort, but he puts that one way high. That could have been 10-0 in favor of Cincinnati. But in the end, Cincinnati will just have to settle 9 in terms of this game. 13-0 in terms of the aggregate score. That is insane to see how the aggregate scores. I don't think there's been ever been an aggregate score that one-sided in the CONCACAF Champions Cup. Shots in this one, 24 shots compared to 5 that OMN has. No shots on goal for the 13 that Cincinnati has. 8 shots off target compared to 2 that OMN has. Both teams have 3 shots that was blocked, and possession-wise, 58% possession compared to 42% possession that OMN has in this game. And the only downside I would say if you're a Cincinnati fans coming out of this one is the fact that you know that in the next round it's not going to be anything easier than that, and you probably should save some of those goals not only for the weekend but also for the Tigres battle that they have to face in the next round as well. But hey, they at least they kind of take advantage of what OMN gave them, and yeah, it's just safe to say that OMN pretty much just lied down and flat out gave up for most part of this game. Now, moving on to talk about some other MLS team involving CONCACAF Champions Cup was a little bit closer than the 9-0 drumming that we saw earlier in the first game of the triple header, and that of course is the Whitecaps and Cartiganes. And I gotta say, for the Whitecaps, it took a while. I mean, this was a very frustrating match for them, similar to what we saw last year as well. If you recall, last year that in their first round matchup, they had a pretty tough time in their first round matchup as well, but eventually they found a way to move on into the next round. And here, coming into this game, no on the scoreline. They know that they can't afford to give up a goal against Cartiganes because that away goal means almost 2 goals that Vancouver will have to overcome. And well, it took a while, and they were getting blue ball for a lot of this game in terms of missing chances left, right, and center. They found a way to move on to the next round. The first shot of the game did see Mora shot was deflected and goes wide before an Olympico attempt was made by one of the Cartianes player, but it was tipped over by Takaoka. The first shot for the Whitecaps did see Brasino denying bad well there. I gotta say, I wouldn't be surprised. There might be some MLS team might be looking into this Cartagena goalkeeper Brasinio because he was big in this game. I mean, he made some huge save in this one that again I've seen before where MLS team have gone to the Central America to maybe look for some hidden talent, especially looking at the CONCACAF Champions Cup. And like I said, Brasino might be a guy that maybe will get a shot by one of these MLS team if that of course could be the case. But in the 10th minute, Priso would heads it wide from the corner. The shots were two apiece early in this one. This was a very fun game to watch. There was a lot of chances in this one as well. Nunez would then hits it right to Takaoka before Cabrera would puts it wide from the curler in the 21st minute. The chances are definitely there for Vancouver, but the question is, can they finally get the goal scoring lit off in this two-legged affair? The ball then hit the video board as well, and I'm actually kind of surprised this doesn't happen more often at BC Plays because if you ever been to BC Plays, you know that the video board is kind of like a center holding video board, similar to what we see at AT&T Stadium, or also known as Sherry World, where there's that big scoreboard that's kind of like hanging in the middle of the field. And I'm kind of surprised the ball doesn't really hit that as much. I mean, it is pretty high up, but yeah, I thought that eventually maybe one of the ball will actually hits that video board. But yeah, in this case, it did hit the video board, which not only it's peak Concacaf, but it's kind of surprising it doesn't happen more often. And I guess the same rule apply where, well, if it hits something in the field of play, you gotta have to do a drop ball, and that's kind of what they ruled. They had to restart the play on a drop ball as a result. White then had a tap in here in the 24th minute, but somehow in some way it was clear off the line. I mean, that is one that immediately when I saw that, I'm like, oh boy, is this one of those nights for the Vancouver Whitecaps? And also, for Brian White, he so far he's been pretty snake bitten this season. I mean, that is one that if this was last season, he would bury that not only 9 out of 10 times, but probably 999 out of 1,000 times. Like I have no idea how he didn't put that one. It was literally a tapped in, but he just kind of hit it right to one of the Cartiganes players that was in the right place in the right time to clear that one off the line. And up to this point, I'm just thinking, yeah, the Whitecaps are they getting blue ball in front of goal here? It just feels like no matter what they do in front of goal, it's not going to go into the back of the net. White would then hits it high from close range. The shots were 5-3 for Vancouver 30 minutes into this one. Berhalter then blasted high from long range, but then a penalty was given to the Whitecaps as Freon handballed this one in the box. Originally, I thought it was actually absolutely egregious that was a penalty because I thought it was Freon the one that was brought down. I think it was Cabrera there in the box if I'm not mistaken. It might be a different Vancouver player, but either way, I thought that was incredibly harsh because that definitely didn't look like there was a lot of contact. But then when I look on the replay, I saw the handball, and you got to give a lot of credit to the linesman and the referee of spotting that one because it's not a very easy one to spot on. So yeah, here comes Brian White, a chance to give the Whitecaps finally a deserted 1-0 lead. Racino says no. Like I said, I would not be surprised. There's going to be some MLS teams that's going to give Racino a chance, or maybe even contact Cartiganes by the end of tonight about their netminder because he was big in this one. He denied White from the spot in the 41st minute, and like I said, Brian White his snake bitten start to the season can continue as well. It is not very often we see Brian White miss from the spot here, and it wasn't even a great penalty for Brian White as well, but even a better save there from Brasinio. And while the Cartiganes player was definitely celebrated because of the penalty save, somebody got sent off in the Cartiganes bench. I'm not quite sure if it was a player or a staff member. I think they were still up in arms in terms of the call on the play. I guess they probably didn't see the handball situation, and they thought that it was actually the contact, which I don't blame them for being very upset about that because yeah, that was probably going to be very soft to call. But if they actually see the handball situation, I don't know if they're still going to be complaining about. I mean, I probably think that they'll still complain the fact that it wasn't a handball in the first place, and yeah, somebody probably crossed the line a little bit, and just like that, they got sent off as a return. But we do head to halftime, still scoreless between both of these teams. In the second half, there was a huge shout for a penalty for Vancouver not given. Sabi would then puts it wide from close range. Vancouver definitely took control of this game as they really are pushing hard to try to get that elusive opening goal. Muller would then hits the post there, but it falls to Sabi, who only hits this one right to Brasinio. But then the 58th minute, they finally got the breakthrough. Vancouver. It's Kenji Cabrera. He scored from Blackman here to give the Whitecaps a 1-0 lead. Not only the fact that that's been coming, but yeah, that was finally one that they desperately needed to get ahead in terms of the aggregate score. But I thought for a second maybe the Whitecaps got blue ball here as well because they did go to VAR to see whether or not if Cabrera was actually on an onside position there. Luckily for the Whitecaps and certainly for Kenji Cabrera himself, VAR says that he was onside because given how the night has gone for the Vancouver Whitecaps, I wouldn't have been surprised if that goal would have been called back for offside. But most importantly, the Whitecaps does have a 1-0 lead. But again, the job is not done because if Cartiganes can get a goal here and get the equalizer, they're moving on into the next round on a away goal. Berhalter would then puts it wide on the free kick. Vancouver continued to press for the second goal, and like what I said, if Cartiganes does equalize, they would actually move on because of the away goal rule. Marquez would then puts it wide as the flag went up in the 68th minute, and then Takaoka had to deny Aria, who tried to cross this one into no man's land here. It's one of those dangerous cross that is whipped in where it's a helpless feeling if you're a defender or a goalkeeper because if you're a defender you intervene, it might stab into your own net, but if you don't intervene it might go all the way, and somehow in some way Takaoka with some smart instinct to get that one away. I mean, this doesn't look like a hard save, but when that ball was put into no man's land like that, I mean, yeah, that really caught everybody by surprise and definitely kind of handlocked Takaoka there, but he still was able to make that save there to keep this at 1-0. But you just kind of had a sense the alarm bells are ringing for Vancouver. They need the second goal. They cannot afford to give up this equalizer. That means that they're going to be out of this competition. They almost had it again in the 78th minute. If it wasn't for the post, denying Mueller for the second time. So I talk about Brian White being snake bitten. Thomas Mueller was definitely snake bitten in this game as well. But in the 80th minute, oh, this has got to be a huge sigh really for the Vancouver Whitecaps because when all things fail, why not rely on Sebastian Berhalter? He's always gonna able to score a goal or two for you or getting assists, and in this case, he does score a huge goal here to make it 2-0 in favor of the Whitecaps. Jackson did try to make it 3-0, but he was denied by Brasinio. But yeah, in the end, the Vancouver Whitecaps, it was a bit of a harder work that they need to do here in the second leg against Cartiganes. They got the job done. They get the 2-0 win here. The shots in this one, 21 shots compared to 5 that Cartiganes had. No shots on goal compared to 6 that Vancouver has. 2 shots that was off target compared to 9 that Vancouver had. 6 shots that was blocked compared to 3 that Cartiganes has. And possession-wise, 67% possession compared to 33% possession that Cartiganes has in this game. And while I know Jasper Sorensen won't be too happy in terms of how his team performed in these two-legged affair, especially the fact that he'll be very frustrated with their finishing ability. I think he's happy the fact that his team is moving on into the next round, and now they get to face against a familiar foe in MLS and a familiar opponent in the Cascadia region. And that's the Seattle Sounder. We're gonna have a bit of a Cascadia derby in terms of the round of 16 in the CONCACAF Champions Cup as well. But with that being said, I am now going to switch board and look at the last game and look at the game that just finished a moment ago between the Galaxy and San Miguelito. All right, so now let's talk about the final game in the game that just concluded about 20 minutes ago between the LA Galaxy and San Miguelito. And if you thought that I talked about the Vancouver Whitecaps kind of had to sweat it out a bit to move on to the next round, the Galaxy basically said, hold my beer. And in many ways, despite the fact the Galaxy was able to move on into the next round because of the away goal rule, and I think this is the first time in this year in this competition where we actually saw a team move on because of the away goal rule. And say what you say about the away goal rule. I think Galaxy fans would we happily take that because yeah, the rest of how this game went, I don't think Galaxy fans are going to be very happy with this performance, and I don't think Greg Vanny would be happy with this performance either. In fact, I would say there's got to be a lot of concern you got to say about the Galaxy, not just about this game itself, really. In the beginning of the season, they still have yet to win a game so far in the beginning of this season in all competition, and I know Galaxy fans going to have PTSD in terms of the 16 game winless run to start the season last year. Believe me, I don't think it's gonna be as bad. I'll be kind of shocked that that is the case, but yeah, I think the big concern you got to say about the Galaxy, in at least in these first couple of games, they look very bad going for it on the attacking end, and that's kind of head scratching too, because when you look at the talent that this team had on the attack, you would think that they should be better than what they are in these last three games, but it just feels like there's a huge disconnect right now. And I know, the loss of Ricky Puig, it really means a lot to this team, and not having him for the second consecutive season is going to be tough as well. But it just feels like it's even more tougher than what we saw last season, because at least last season they showed some good attacking threat. This season that just have not been the case whatsoever. Now in the first half, Klaus with the game's first shot, but he heads it onto the roof and a net off of a deflection. The Galaxy definitely dominate possession early as they were in control as well. But Hurtado with that's a wide from the corner in the 12th minute, and JT got away with this one. I mean, he came off his lines here from the corner, and not only the fact that he didn't get it, but he is very lucky that Hurtado didn't hit that one to the back of the net. Anytime when you're a goalkeeper and you try to come off your line to punch that one away, if you don't get it, that is a helpless feeling. Like you are at the mercy of the player that gets there first to hope that he hits that one wide, because if it didn't go wide there, that would have been an absolute howler for Mark Sinkowski. But luckily for JT, it did go wide there. The possession was 71-29 in favor of the Galaxy, but they were looking very stagnated going for it as well, and that would be kind of a theme for the Galaxy in this game as well, and really a theme so far in the beginning of the season. There just feels like there's a disconnection between those attacking players, and it just feels like there's a huge disconnect, at least in the front three, between Gabriel Peck, Painso, and João Klaus as well. In the 28th minute, there was a shout for a handball for the Galaxy, not given, and then in the 33rd, it looked like the Galaxy finally got the breakthrough when Gabriel Peck puts it into the back of the net. But yeah, when I saw the replay of that goal, I just had a feeling this was going to be called back. It definitely looked like Painso on the developmental play was in an offside position. They go to VAR to make sure that is the case, and yeah, it is the case. It was actually a relatively quick call, and just like that, we remain deadlocked at 0-0 up to this point. Now, around the 40th minute mark, Mike actually picked up some obvious choice words that Joseph Payne so basically said after he committed a foul there, and I'm just gonna leave it at that because it's not pleasant word whatsoever. I'm not gonna mention what kind of things that he said, but yeah, he definitely said some very explicit thing that I'm kind of surprised Fox didn't really just kind of try to mute that on-field mic as soon as possible, because yeah, there was a lot of explicit words that was being shared over the air, and I'm pretty sure Fox are probably whoever is producing behind the truck are probably just scrambling to trying to wipe that off, or maybe shut the audio because of over explicit words that's being shared in the broadcast. There was a shout for a penalty for the Galaxy, again not given. Peck would then hits it right to Calderon in the 43rd minute, but we do head to halftime scoreless between both of these teams. In the second half, Cooper would then puts it high from close in the 54th minute. TFC fans would recognize this name. I can't believe I didn't mention this in the first leg as well, but remember Armando Cooper when he was with that Toronto team? I mean, he didn't do a lot of thing with that TFC side, but hey, it's good to always mention a former MLS player, even though it's been over a decade since he has, or at least close to being a decade since he's gone to and play in MLS. But yeah, I also thought the Galaxy was playing a dangerous game, because despite the scoreless draw, which means that they'll go through because of the away goal, one goal for San Miguelito, and they're in for business. And if we know anything about what happened in the first leg, San Miguelito doesn't need a lot of chances to score that one goal. I mean, they literally score on the only shot on goal last weekend on their first shot, and really just completely score against the run of play against the Galaxy. And you just kind of sense, yeah, the Galaxy are playing a dangerous game, because as dominant as they are, San Miguelito can do it again, and looking to try to do it again, just like what they did in the first leg, scoring completely against the run of play. The shots were 7-3 for the Galaxy up to the hour mark. Cirillo would then put it just wide from long range before Klaus would then hits it wide off of deflection. Royce would then hits it high from close in the 72nd minute. The Galaxy still looking to try to get that lead to give them some breathing space. Painto would then have a shot that was it wide before Caicedo would blast one to Santa Monica in the 85th minute, and then Painto would hit it right to Calderon in the 86th minute. And really, up to this point, besides that disallowed goal that the Galaxy have scored, I really don't recall the Galaxy really troubled Calderon in this point. In fact, of the 11 shots that the Galaxy have scored, there's only been two that's been on target. The one in the 86th minute and the one in the 43rd, and both of those shots were pretty easy for the San Miguelito netminder to save. So again, that's the problem. Were looking completely clueless when they get into the final. There's just feels like there's a huge disconnection between that front three, and even with Marco Royce himself. Like with Royce kind of playing throughout this entire game, and I know he is kind of getting near the end of his career, but still, I mean, he was almost a non-factor in this one. And I said this earlier, and I'll say it again. It is kind of shocking to see how bad this attack is to begin this season, despite the fact that the talent on this team shouldn't be saying that this attack could be that stale and that stagnant as we see, not just in this game, but also in the game against NYCFC and even in the first leg game that they had against San Miguelito down in Panama. James would then puts it way high on the volley. The announcer pronounced this as James, but I'm pretty sure it's not pronounced James. I'm pretty sure it's pronounced James. Just like the new man from Minnesota United that they got. You knew that was coming. I mean, you knew I had to mention that as well. I mean, I still cannot believe James Rodriguez is a Loons player, and I'm excited for him to finally made his long-awaited debut. But yeah, in this play, I'm pretty sure it's pronounced James because it's a it's a it's supposed to be kind of a Hispanic pronunciation, but at least in the broadcast they pronounce it as James, and he puts it way high on the volley. There was also some temper flare that happened in the third minute stoppage time. There was a pushing and shoving that involved after Klaus was decked. After trying to waste some time on the corner flag, and in that sequence, we also saw a red card as Nascimento got himself sent off in this play, and this was just dumb for Nascimento. Like when you're warming up on the touch line, and you're clearly not in this game. You simply cannot intervene. Like if you intervene, and especially you are part of the action when you're not on the pitch, you are always going to get a red card in that sequence. So yeah, not only the fact that he of course got sent off in that moment, now he's not available for the next game for the Galaxy as well. A game where maybe they might change it up a little bit going up for it, because when they try to put João Claus up front in this one, it really didn't work out the way that they hope for, and now they won't have that option with Nascimento not being available in the next game because of just this really silly red card that he got late in this game. But in the end, the Galaxy did play to a 0-0 draw against San Miguelito, and the good news is they, of course, are moving on because of the away goal rule. Who would have thought that the Joseph Painto goal that was scored against this team down in Panama was the decider in this one? But the shots in this one, 11 shots compared to 4 that San Miguelito has, but only 2 shots on goal. So yeah, this was not one of those entertaining kind of matchup like what we saw earlier in this one. 6 shots off target compared to 4 that San Miguelito has. No shots was blocked with a 5 that the Galaxy had. Then possession-wise, 74% possession compared to the 26% possession that San Miguelito has in this one. And I think the Galaxy are probably very lucky the fact that they probably have the easiest way to get themselves into the quarterfinal, because I think after that they get to play against Mount Pleasant, a team from the Jamaican League. Though you expect that they should be better against them, especially we see MLS team seems like they dominate Caribbean team. And I say that, but still, I do have a lot of concern about the this team in terms of how they play in the first free game, and I'm pretty sure Galaxy fans have a lot of concern as well, because, like I said, this attack it's shocking to see how bad it is to begin the season, and I don't know if this is just mainly because of the way that Greg Vanny decided to go with a more defensive approach. We kind of saw it against NYCFC where he kind of went on a little bit more defensive approach and hope that maybe the counterattack, of course, would work out, especially with the pace that both Peck and Painto has. And while, of course, they can show the pace in terms of bombing for on the attack, there's just no quality whatsoever once they get into the final. There just feels like there's a huge disconnect once that has happened. And not to also mention the fact that at times it's just kind of too predictable of them just like whenever you go on the transition, every single time the Galaxy just look on the flank, and that's the way to do it. And I'm pretty sure that's not always going to be a way that will be successful going on the transition, because when you keep doing that, it just became too predictable, and I think that's another big issue of why this team has really struggled to begin the season so far. But there you have it. That is pretty much it. Looking at these three games that finish off the CONCACAF Champions Cup first round matchup in the second leg involving MLS team. We got one more game tomorrow, and that's the last matchup that we're gonna see in the first round before we will officially now found out now all the opponent that or all the matchup that will happen in the round 16 that's going to be happening in the middle of March. But until then, hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you do, make sure you guys leave a like, smash the subscribe button, and yeah, I of course will see you guys next time.